It is 10 GMT, 1 p.m. in Gaza, where Israeli strikes are continuing across the Strip, including in Rafah. That's the main city in the south, where hundreds of thousands of displaced Palestinians have been sheltering. The UN's top court has ruled Israel should stop its offensive in the city. The International Court of Justice also ordered Israel to open the Rafah border crossing to allow an aid. That says hospitals are running out of supplies. Shelling and gunfire has also been reported near the Kuwaiti hospital in Rafah, and missiles have hit the crowded al-Shaboura refugee camp. Hind al-Khudri begins our coverage from Deir el-Balah.
In Shaboura camp in central Rafah, civil defense crew tried to find survivors after an Israeli strike in the tent city. Palestinians here are hoping there is change after the court order because there's nowhere safe to go. For displaced Palestinians at this makeshift camp in Deir el-Balah, decisions at the International Court of Justice don't go far enough. After 8 months of Israeli bombardment, they want decisive action to end their suffering.
We want these decisions to be implemented on the ground, to stop the war, and not just to talk about Rafah. They've committed genocide, they've committed massacres. We want all the Arabs to stand with us and for the world to stand with us and stop the war. They shouldn't say one thing and do something different.
Everything here in Gaza was completely destroyed. So the decision, what the Palestinians need is immediately stop war. We don't need a declaration, we need application on the pitch here.
While the UN court delivered its ruling, there was heavy Israeli bombing in Rafah. Many Palestinians remain skeptical that the court order for Israel to stop its assault on Rafah will have any effect. Back at al-Shaboura camp, emergency workers put out fires in this residential area after an Israeli strike. They're searching homes and telling people to leave as more bombs are expected to fall. Hind al-Khudri, Al Jazeera, Deir el-Balah, Gaza, Palestine.
Our correspondent Hani Mahmoud is joining us live from Deir el-Balah in central Gaza. And Hani, there have been attacks not just in Rafah, but it's a rapidly deteriorating situation in the north too.
Yes, within the past 12 hours, we're looking at this Israeli military scaling up attacks across the Gaza Strip from further southern part of the Strip in Rafah city, where the Israeli military has expanded its military operation beyond the central part of the city, right now operating within the refugee camp. That's a Shaboura refugee camp, where the only remaining operational hospital now running at the lowest capacity possible is under fire. The majority of the public facilities, roads leading to the hospital being either completely destroyed or severely damaged, preventing paramedics and ambulance from being dispatched and bringing back injuries and those who need to be saved from targeted areas. In the central area and the northern part, the Israeli military continue to attacks across the Strip, killing more people inside the residential home, trapping people inside evacuation center as it's happening in the northern part of the Strip, mainly in the Jabalia refugee camp, where it forced further internal displacement for the remaining population. All of this happening while the UN top court has ordered Israel to hold its offensive on the city of Rafah. Just to give better and broader context on what's going on, we are joined by Maha Hussaini, a strategy director from the Euro Human Rights Monitor. Maha, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Maha, the UN top court just issued a dramatic ruling ordering Israel to hold its offensive on Rafah city and increase humanitarian aid. What does that mean for Palestinians?
Well, this is a very important and crucial step that the world has long awaited for. for decades, not just since the beginning of this genocide on the Gaza Strip since the 7th of October. This is finally a recognition by the international community that has long resorted and only issued timid statements about Israel's violations, that what Israel is doing in the Gaza Strip has actually crossed all limits. Since the beginning of this Palestinian catastrophe, and back in 1948, for example, when Palestinians have been forcibly expelled from their homes and villages, and when the international community has continued not only to sit on the fence, but also to support Israel by providing arms that have been used against the Palestinians and have been involved in war crimes and crimes against humanity. Palestinians have lost faith in humanity. They have felt that they were abandoned and failed by the international community. This is now a milestone. But what is more important now is to ask, what's next? Will this be just ink on paper, like Palestinians have long witnessed? Will this just be orders that will not actually be pressure on Israel to abide by international law? This is the most important question. We are now witnessing a genocide that the world is watching on their screens, and while we are witnessing and living this genocide, there is no much time left. We do not have any time. Every hour, every minute, there is a new soul that is lost. There is a new life that is devastated, and we need to take action now.
This is really important. It takes me to the next question, a question of applicability. This is not the first time we see resolution decision at the international level is being made, the General Assembly, the UN Security Council. But again, the question now, how applicable is that on the ground?
Well, unfortunately, successive Israeli governments have failed to comply by international orders and international laws, including conventions that Israel itself signed on and ratified. So, including, for example, the ICJ's provisional measures, which have been issued a couple of months ago. Israel has failed also to adhere and comply by these orders. Only yesterday, following a couple of hours following the decision of the ICJ, Israel has continued to bomb Rafah, and also they have carried out unprecedented Israeli airstrikes on the center of Rafah, including by preventing medical crews and ambulances from reaching this area, preventing or also targeting every moving thing in the center of Rafah. So this is actually a sign that Israel is also failing to adhere by these decisions, and this is also a sign that the international community is now more than ever needs to take tangible steps to impose these decisions and to pressure Israel to adhere by them, including by imposing diplomatic, economic, and political sanctions on Israel.
Maha, the Israeli government, almost everyone in the war cabinet came out and vehemently denied that the ruling is based on allegations, basically denied all the accusations. They said these are South African made up allegations and denied all that. In your work, what you do on the ground, you document basically for the past months, everything happened on the ground, the genocidal act, the practices, the ongoing failure of providing aid. What is your response to these, this denial to the ruling?
Well, this is very important to highlight because this is not only a facet of the genocide, but also a consequence of Israel's blackout imposed on the Palestinians on the Gaza Strip, including by, for example, preventing and banning international crews, including UN teams and investigative teams, and also international journals from covering the events and the reality on the ground in Gaza. The Israeli officials, since the beginning of this genocide, have long talked about their adherence by international law and the legality of their actions. But when talking about genocide, we cannot talk about legality. These are two concepts that are diametrically opposed. We are talking about war crimes and crimes against humanity. Israel has almost violated every provision of the Fourth Geneva Convention and the Rome Statute and conventions they themselves have ratified and signed on. For example, since the beginning of this attack, we have documented several war crimes and crimes against humanity being committed against the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. 2 days ago, we have issued a report report, a detailed report of 42 forms of torture and inhumane and degrading treatment practiced by the Israeli army against Palestinian prisoners and detainees from the Gaza Strip, including sexual assault, threats of rape, spitting and urinating on detainees, etc. So the Israeli army actually in Gaza is not only following orders from Israeli officials to target and kill everything that is called Palestinians or everything that is Palestinian, but they are also given a green light to improvise new kinds of crimes and kinds of torture against Palestinians just for being Palestinians in the Gaza Strip, which is part of the genocide being practiced against these Palestinians. So what we are talking about is crimes against humanity being documented not only by our organization, but also by UN organizations, UN experts, and international organizations working on the ground, and these crimes are not deniable.
Maha, thank you so much. So as we heard from Maha, the strategy director at the Human Rights Monitor, the concern right now is not the ongoing Israeli failures to abide by these rulings, but also the lack of mechanism to put pressure on Israel, meaningful pressure, whether it's an American or at the international level, to actually force Israel to stop all the genocidal acts and practices on the ground and in the war.
Hani, thank you for that. Hani Mahmoud joining us live from Deir el-Balah in central Gaza.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.